Hello, everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Laura, how are you doing today?
I am doing fabulous, Rod. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Please introduce yourself and the name of your business.
My name is Laura Woodard, and my business is Grassroots Medical Marketing.
Awesome. We so look forward to learning more about your business. But before that, we want to learn a little bit more about your story, and we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
My journey, I went to the University of South Florida. I started college at the age of 25.
Okay.
So I waited a few years before I started. And then when I got out of college, I worked for an amazing organization, the Boy Scouts of America. And I was their first woman district executive in the district that I worked in. So I learned a lot there. And then I was introduced to the world of marketing and graphic design. I worked with a boutique graphic design firm, and we had clients like Disney World, Tropicana Orange Juice, all sorts of interesting organizations. And that really got me learning about graphic design and marketing in general. And so I spent my career from there working with high-tech marketing. I was recruited out to Utah 2 times for high-tech marketing. It's a hotbed for high tech out there. And so I worked in that industry for so many years. And then I've worked in nonprofits. I've worked in several different agencies. And one of the things that I have found throughout my career is there are foundational things that are important in marketing. And it's really interesting to me to apply that foundation to different industries.
Yes. Now, I want to unpack some of those things that you shared. So you get your degree and then you go to the Boy Scouts of America. Tell us a little bit about how that experience came about, and then also how you were able to navigate being the first.
So when I was in college, they had a program where they supported you in interviewing with large corporations. And so I went through many of the interviews with different corporations, and the Boy Scouts of America really clicked for me. I've always been interested in helping youth. I still to this day do mentorship. And so to me, that felt like a really great fit. And so I interviewed for the position, and then I ended up not being hired in my same area. There was a district near me, which was a little bit, had a lot more retirees. So it was interesting that they hired a woman. Most women in the Scouts were Explorer district executives, but I was a district executive for the traditional Boy Scout program.
Okay.
And some of the people, mostly men leaders, some of them were not happy that a woman was hired, and they just didn't think I could do the job.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just learned along the way how to navigate, how, some people aren't going to always like you. And that's okay.
That's
So
right.
I just kept my head down and worked the program. And I ended up meeting my fundraising goal. We had a very organized district. And actually, when I was getting ready to leave, when I resigned to get into marketing, the gentleman that was literally screaming at me across the room in the first meeting was asking me what could he do to get me to stay. So I felt like at that point I had a big win.
Yes, I see you were able to navigate your way through that, fight against some of those biases that were there, and then ended up being a person that they looked up to and looked for solutions from. Now, I can tell in this particular position, it was starting of that mentorship, and I know you did some high-tech jobs, but you said you did some nonprofit work. Tell us a little bit about that and how you were able to continue that mentorship into that nonprofit work.
Well, the interesting thing is when you're in marketing, a lot of times when you are volunteering in a nonprofit organization, then you are dubbed the marketing person. And so they come to you for how can we leverage your skill set.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ones I have been a member of the Economic Club of Tampa, which is a nonprofit 501c3, and I had been a member since 2008. Well, we decided that we were going to hold the first ever mayoral inaugural ball. And so I was recruited to work on that initial committee. And the proceeds from it went to Take Stock in Children, which is a Florida program for underserved children. And they provide scholarships. And so I helped plan that entire first inaugural ball, which was a wonderful experience. We had a team of about 20 people, but I was dubbed the marketing person. And I got to do this really interesting thing. We have many mayors. There were 5 mayors at the time still living that were past mayors. And so I worked with a local TV station, and we went out and interviewed each one of those mayors, and their stories were so amazing. And so we then used that as a promotional tool to launch the very first inaugural ball. And so the TV station actually aired the interviews, and then we had them at the ball, and it was a wonderful experience. And through that experience, Take Stock in Children asked people to volunteer. And so I volunteered as a mentor, and I was a mentor to a high school student for about 3 years. And then she graduated, and then I helped her get into college. And since then, she's already graduated from college and is out working. But the one thing I told her was, we are not going to acquire any debt while you're in college. And I had read this book by Ramit Sethi, I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really written for kids in college. And the interesting thing was, he got all of these scholarships and he methodically applied for scholarships. So that's what Jessica and I did. She was so good at it. She was dedicated. She went through her entire university career with no debt. She graduated with no debt.
Yeah, that's awesome life of service that you have been going through so far. I'm sure that reach of children that you probably have no idea about, you have helped throughout their lifetime. And thank you so much for that service. So you're with the nonprofit. What was next for you, Laura?
So then I was recruited. I started my own company,
Mm-hmm.
and I ran that for several years. And I was recruited to work with Florida's Office of Early Learning. So that education still kind of goes through my background.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the communications director for Florida's Office of Early Learning. So I ran my business out of Tallahassee, and I worked there full time. So that's where we went next. And then I ended up working with Hillsborough County Public Schools, which is the 7th largest school district in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And they hired me to write their first ever marketing plan, which I did. And the first year I was there, they needed to hire 1,200 teachers in order to start the year fully staffed. And the year before, they had only hired 500.
Okay.
And so the superintendent and my manager said, what can we do? Write a plan for us. So I did. And by the first day of school, we had 1,200 teachers hired.
Oh, that is a magnificent accomplishment. What were some of the things that you did to get the message out there to get those teachers?
We did a lot of unusual things. We put together a program. It was a new software program that really hadn't been tried yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave us the ability to reach out to graduating seniors all over the United States. And so we utilized that program. We sent our executive level leaders out to speak at graduation ceremonies. And we asked them to invite the students who were graduating with an education degree to have a meet and greet. And so we did those all over the country. We also started a newsletter that told we got all of our leads of students graduating, and the newsletter talked about why it was important to work in Hillsborough County, and we called it Teach in Tampa. And so we told not only why they should join our school district, but we told all about our community and listed different things that were happening in the community so they could get a flavor for what was happening. And the big thing that really made it successful was my counterpart, who was in HR, and she was amazing. She had to really beef up the infrastructure in order to interview and hire and do all of the paperwork. So that was really working between two different infrastructures. That's usually a challenge in marketing. You bring in all of these leads, then it can't be processed. And
Yeah.
I find that in my current role too. They think, okay, well, we're going to hire all these people or we're going to bring on all these new patients. But if you don't have the infrastructure to handle it, then you end up hurting yourself. But she was amazing and she got it done and got all of those background checks done. It was amazing. It was a true partnership.
Awesome. That is a very creative way to come up with an answer, or a solution to that issue of getting those teachers hired. Now, you said you were doing your own business at the time. Is this your current business or was this another business that you had?
No, I started grassroots marketing
Mm-hmm.
meant 15 or 16 years ago. And
Okay.
so I had that for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up closing it. And then I was helping my mom and my aunt with caregiving at that point.
Okay, even more service going on. It's one of those things where, you know, just based off of the foundation, because, you've talked a lot about foundation and making sure you have a solid one. And, service and trying to get the message out there has been a current theme of what you've been sharing so far. So you said you had to close the business to help take care of your mom and aunt. What was next from there?
So that's actually when I started working with Hillsborough Schools. I closed the
Okay.
business and I
Okay.
started working with Hillsborough Schools.
Okay.
And so it was a wonderful thing because I was able to work from 7 a.m. to 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that allowed me to be able to go and visit my mother and my aunt because my mother had had a terrible head injury. And by that time, we had to have her put in a nursing care facility. And then her younger sister, who was 3 years younger, um, a few years before that, started showing signs of dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to put her into an Alzheimer's facility.
Yeah, so life in this chapter of life is coming along. We understand those types of things happen. Now, there's so many different options that you could have chosen at that time. You had the nonprofit world, you had corporate experience, you had municipality experience. What had that bug crank back up for the entrepreneurship for you?
Well, I really enjoy putting pieces of the puzzle together. I love puzzles. I love puzzles in general, but
Hmm.
specifically for marketing. And so for me, the entrepreneurial spirit allows me to do it on my own terms.
Hmm. Now, as you were getting ready to get your business started back up, was there an event that happened that made you burn the ship and go all in on your current business?
I was a partner in another agency, and I just kept thinking about when I was helping my mom and my aunt. Their primary care would say, well, she needs to go to a specialist. Then I would ask all of my friends, who is a good specialist for whatever the need was. And then I would go online and I would start looking and I'd be typing in and trying to find a good doctor online. And either they only had a couple of reviews or they had some good reviews and bad reviews or their profiles weren't filled out
Hmm.
or I'd get to their website and it was broken or parts of it didn't work right, and I just kept saying, why can't I find a good doctor online? And so when I got the opportunity to start my agency, I decided at that point that I was only going to help private practice physicians because they are experts in their own fields. They are healing people and changing the trajectory of somebody's life, but they're not focused on marketing.
Hmm.
And so that's where I really felt like there was a need. And so that's when I said, I'm going to only do private practice physicians.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. I say it all the time that people are great at what it is that they do, but that does not mean they understand how to work all of the business solutions. So you come in, you help them to create the brand. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing for these doctors.
So what I do is I have a program, and of course I call it the GRASS program.
Hmm.
Uh, what we do is we go in and we gauge where that private practice physician's marketing stands. What are all the different things that they're doing? They may have a social media site, they may have a website. What are they doing to communicate? So we go in and engage that, and then we recognize where are the opportunities that are available. What can they improve on that will make a difference in their practice? Then we create a strategic plan. So that's the S. Um, we accelerate with a strategic plan. Then we do seamless execution, where we come in and we actually do it for them. Because we have found that if some practices do have people who can help, but usually the consistency is what makes the difference. So if they don't have a consistent program, that's where we come in and we assist them with executing programs. And then we don't stop there. Every month we measure every single thing that is being done, every marketing activity that's being done. So we do success measurement, and we go in and determine, here are the things that we're doing, here's where they are. Sometimes you're like a tailor and you have to kind of let some things out and take some things in. And so we assess where they're doing, and then we start the entire process over, where we gauge where they are, and then we continue that process. And that process has really served us well, because it shows us and the physicians and their staff what's working, what's not working, and it gives us a path to success.
Yes, having that system in place is very important, especially one that is one of accountability. And that's what the second half of your process does for those people, to make sure that the plans are really being executed and the goals are being met. Now, as we are creating the framework of those physicians that you're helping, tell us a little bit about the size of the practice. Is it a specific part of medicine that works? Tell us a little bit more about that actual client of yours.
So, what we have found, our sweet spot where we've really been able to help physicians, is if they have a practice that has two or more physicians or two or more offices. If
Mhm.
they're a single practitioner in one office, they're not really ready for the influx of patients.
Mhm.
And so once they get to the two physicians or more than two locations, that's where we really need help. Once we get to 20 or 30 physicians in a practice, they usually have their own marketing department, and we can be brought in to help that marketing director, but they already have a plan going. So it's really a sweet spot. And we really focus on what I call super specialists.
Mhm.
So we have podiatrists. We work a lot with orthopedic surgeons. Um, we have an infertility doctor that we work with. So we have found that super specialists are the ones that really are a good fit. Now, we can help primary care physicians, but they're usually not as good a fit for us.
Okay. And geographically, that doesn't matter throughout the country. You can help physicians all over the country.
All over the country, we have a wonderful physician that we've worked with in West Virginia.
Hmm.
He is our ideal client. We just love him, Dr. Greshner.
Now, I know there's all types of strategies that you implement based off of the current situation, but I want to talk with you about one of those hot topics, the AI. I just did a education moment on AI, and I said people are still seeing it as the Terminator, but I see it as a situation where it can help us to just enhance what we have. Do you mind touching on that a little bit for us?
Absolutely. You know, it's funny to me that we talk about AI so much because we've all actually been using AI for a long time, and especially in marketing. We've been using artificial intelligence for a very long time. Long language um, is something that's been going on repetitively for years. And so we use it to enhance what we're doing. Um, I know a lot of people say that, AI is going to get rid of writers, copywriters. Well, that's not the truth. We have three different specific copywriters that have written medical copy in the past. And so for us, AI is a tool to help evaluate high numbers of things, what posts are working best and why, um, evaluating, what date we get a lot of hits on a website and why that's happening. So we use that for those types of things. But we have found that really it's the personal um, touch that makes the difference. Even with private practice physicians, they could be doing all sorts of online marketing, but really it's the trust that they build. What makes them unique and what is their unique approach to medicine? And it's the same thing with us. We are a very interesting group of my team members. We all specialists in our specific areas, but we all have this one common trait, and it's being a lifelong learner. And so we do use AI to learn things.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Again, it's been a hot topic for many years and even more prevalent now with the advertisement that it's out there. So I just appreciate you talking about that. And I am confident that throughout your time in school, in the corporate world, nonprofit world, you have acquired and nurtured a bunch of business skills or best practices that have helped you to be successful. Do you mind sharing with us a couple of those?
Sure. So in our company, we use a product called Asana, and we have found that when you put projects into Asana and you list out all the different action items that you need to take, now you've freed up all of that mental energy that you would normally be, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. It's already in the framework, and that allows us to add what we really bring to the table, and that's creativity. So using a tool like that to manage the minutia of your business has been very helpful. I've learned this over the years. The other thing is to be a lifelong learner and to not be afraid of new technology. We are having, it's rippling through America and the world. AI is just rippling through, and people are afraid of it. But the one thing that we have done is we've embraced it, and we've figured out how do we learn about this so that we can use it and be more successful.
Yes, very important because it is a tool to help you kind of multiply yourself. I was talking to a developer and he was talking about how it has helped him to 10x his capability. And, those of us who go ahead and submit and understand that it's going to be here and use it can advance some. So thank you so much for sharing that best practice in those business skills that you're currently using. Now, I want to move away from the business and all those types of things, the marketing, and now it's time to talk about you. So let's just say that the business is continuing to grow, time and money's no issue at all. What is it that you would do with your time?
So there would be a few things. I would certainly keep being a mentor. It's just been a theme in my life, and I enjoy teaching and I enjoy learning. So I definitely would do that. I'm very interested in gardening. In fact, I was a master gardener in the county north of Tampa, Hernando County.
Hmm.
I took that course and became a master gardener and had a 1 acre garden.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I would get back to doing more of growing my own vegetables And it's always fun when you do that because um, whatever is coming into the crop. Okay, now I have to learn about okra and how many different ways I can cook okra because when you have a crop come in,
Hmm.
you have a lot of it. So I would like to get back to that.
Awesome. Now, let's just say that there is an open entry for the Florida State Fair, and you have to provide that vegetable. Which one are you going to grow and then submit to that?
Okay, well, that's a great question. I would probably, it would not be tomatoes. I can
Okay.
tell you that. I cannot grow a tomato. Crazy. But I grew collard greens.
Okay. Okay.
And so I probably would submit that
Okay.
because there's nothing like having fresh collard greens. And it's interesting. I've been in a book club for about, I don't know, 10 or 12 years now.
Hmm.
And when I had my garden, I would bring my whole trunk would be filled with different kinds of vegetables. And many of the gals were from up north
Hmm.
and they had not had fresh collard greens before.
Okay.
And so I I gave them all of these vegetables to try, and they came back to me and said I'd never had fresh collard greens and they were so delicious.
Good.
And so of course I gave them, here's how you can cook
Yeah.
them.
How to make it?
but um
Yeah.
but that to me was really rewarding because I grew up eating collard greens, although my aunt did not rinse hers enough and sometimes they were a little sandy. And
Gritty.
if you've ever eaten sandy collard greens, you know what I'm talking
I
about.
do know a little gritty in there, but it's okay.
Yeah,
It's okay. It's the love she put into it that
it
counted.
is.
Now, if the audience is, if someone in the audience that's watching today is interested in learning more about you, your journey, your business, what's the best way for them to contact you?
So they can go to our website, Grassroots Medical Marketing. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and sign up for our newsletter. It is specifically written for primary care physicians. But like I said in the beginning of our interview, there are foundations that are used throughout all different types of marketing. And so you can still learn tools and tips on how to do marketing, even if you're not a private practice physician.
Awesome. Everyone, go ahead and get that newsletter signed up. That way you can learn some more information from Laura. Laura, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. We definitely appreciate you sharing with us. And we here understand it's not always easy to navigate those ups and downs and all arounds inside of an interview like this. So we want to honor you by giving you the last word. So please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
So, one thing I'd like to leave you with is don't be afraid to be a lifelong learner. It has served me through my entire career, and not just a lifelong learner, but what we do in our organization is we have a framework for learning. And so we go in, and it's really using our GRASS system for that we use for our physicians. Go in and gauge what tool or what do you want to learn about. Then recognize what are the opportunities that are specific to you. Then create a strategic plan. And I like to do things in 3-month increments where we have a 12-week plan and we're systematically learning. So we create our own little learning plan. And so then we go back and we specifically learn certain things about it each week for the 12 weeks. And then at the end, we go back and say, well, what did we learn and how are we using it? And so a lot of people will watch things on YouTube and they learn a little snippet, but they never actually implement it.
Mhm.
And what I've learned with our lifelong learning in our business and the people that I work with is when you approach it systematically, then you actually do learn and then you're actually using that learning.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for coming on the show today.
This was super fun, Rod.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.